Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing a bit of a different kind of plunge. We're not digging into complex theories or, the latest research.
Right.
Instead, we're exploring these, surprisingly unsettling corners of just everyday life. Our mission really is to share a collection of real, unnerving events. These are stories straight from people's experiences, and they really show how fast the familiar can just flip and become frightening. These accounts are basically our source material today.
And what's so compelling about these particular stories is how they really expose that thin line, between the totally mundane and the genuinely bizarre.
Yeah.
They are these huge, complicated mysteries you can solve easily. They're more like slices of life where something truly chilling, something inexplicable just barges in. And the questions that linger, the why, that's what makes them stick with you.
Exactly. So find a comfy spot, settle in, but just a heads up, you might find yourself double-checking the locks later, maybe glancing over your shoulder a bit more. Let's unpack these real stories, starting with, a classic scenario. The unexpected visitor. Okay, so this first one is about a young man, let's call him Alex. He'd just taken that big step, moved out of his parents' place for the first time.
Big change.
Huge. And he's living alone, small, one-bedroom apartment, not some fancy place. It was actually the downstairs unit of someone else's house.
Yeah.
Now, Alex liked scary movies. He admitted that. But he also said they often left him feeling, pretty spooked, especially being alone in this new place. He even got into this habit of turning on his bedside lamp just to scan the room before trying to sleep.
Understandable.
So picture this particular night. The tenant upstairs, they were out, completely out, which meant any noise Alex heard couldn't be them walking around or anything normal from up there.
Right. Eliminates that explanation.
Yeah. But he kept hearing noises, just faint sounds, couldn't figure out what they were or where they were coming from, and naturally his nerves started kicking in. Couldn't shake the feeling. So he decides, okay, I'll just get up, check the bedroom door, just to be sure. And here's where it gets at.
Wow.
Really weird. Outside his bedroom, there's this narrow hallway. He slowly opens his door. And it was like something straight out of a horror movie he'd actually watched an hour before.
Oh, wow.
There was someone standing at the far end of the hall, right by the kitchen area. And the moonlight coming in was just enough to see her clearly. A woman. Staring right at him.
Gosh.
And this is the part that just sent chills down his spine. She starts to walk backward. Slowly. Still facing him, just backing away down the hall, eyes locked on his...
That's incredibly unnerving. Not running, but backing away.
Totally. His reaction was just pure terror. He screams, stumbles back into his room, slams the door, fumbles with the lock.
Adrenaline dump, yeah.
Now, you'd expect pounding, right? Someone trying to get in. But no. Instead, he hears her running up the half flight of stairs that led to the apartment's exit door, and then slam the exit door shut. Gone. Alex was just frozen, he said, for 10 minutes, just paralyzed by how bizarre it all was, before he could finally, grab his phone, slowly check the apartment. Empty. Completely empty. The explanation, part of it, came the next day. Alex, still shaken, obviously, calls his landlord.
Right.
Landlord calls the upstairs tenant, and get this, the woman in his apartment. She was the upstairs tenant's ex-lover.
Oh, no.
And apparently a very disturbed one. She had somehow tracked down the tenant's address, but in her, frantic state, she broke into the wrong part of the house.
Into Alex's apartment?
Into Alex's apartment, by mistake. The upstairs tenant came down, apologized like crazy, but Alex never got the full story, and he's still haunted by it, wondering, what was she actually going to do? What if she'd found the person she was looking for?
Yeah, connecting that to the bigger picture, it's such a stark example of breached psychological boundaries, right? It's not just your physical space being invaded, but this chaotic history from someone else just crashes into your safe zone.
Totally unexpected.
And what's so disturbing is that it wasn't even about him. It just highlights how incredibly vulnerable we can be to these, invisible threads of other people's lives intersecting with ours. He was just collateral damage in someone else's drama.
It really makes you think about those ripple effects, doesn't it? How someone else's chaos can just slam into your life so terrifyingly.
Absolutely. And it brings up a tough question. How do you even start to process something like that?
Yeah.
Where the threat isn't personal, just random. That lack of reason, sometimes that makes it even creepier, harder to file away.
Okay, so from that kind of accidental home invasion, let's shift gears. Our next story taps into something maybe even deeper, more insidious, a threat that grows slowly, right inside the family circle. So the narrator's father, he'd been widowed back in 2019, and eventually he starts dating this woman, Kathy.
Right.
Now, from day one, the narrator says they just did not like Kathy. Something about her smile described as unsettlingly wide and exaggerated, like it never quite reached her eyes.
Kind of forced pleasantness.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Exactly. So the first really weird thing happens a few weeks after Kathy starts staying over. The narrator comes home unexpectedly, finds Kathy in their dad's closet.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's where the safe was, other valuables were kept. Dad wasn't even home.
Red flag right there.
Big time. When the narrator asks her what she's doing, Kathy just flashes that weird smile, overly sweet voice, "Hey, what's up, sweetie?" just dismisses it. And when the narrator tells their dad, he waves it off. Totally unconcerned. It's nothing.
That's concerning. The dismissal.
Right. So, fast forward a few days, another incident. Narrator comes home from school, sees Kathy leaving their 10-year-old brother Jake's room, carefully shutting the door. Kathy claims, I was just opening his window, it was hot. But the narrator's suspicious now, right? So later, they sneak into Jake's room, check the windows, both shut, tight.
Gotcha, the lie.
The lie. And the narrator's thinking, okay, something is definitely up with this lady. The tension just keeps building. Then, just 2 days later, it escalates. Big time. Dad, Jake, and the narrator are all out. Kathy's babysitting the youngest brother, Scotty, who's only 2.
Oh, little one.
Yeah. The narrator gets this feeling, comes home unannounced again, sneaks in quietly. From the kitchen downstairs, they hear Scotty crying. But it's not just a regular cry. It's described as very distressed, almost terrified kind of crying. And then they hear Kathy screaming at the top of her lungs to shut the F up, just losing it. This was the first time she really showed her true colors.
That mask finally slipped.
Completely. Yeah. The narrator, fueled by pure protective instinct, runs downstairs yelling at Kathy, "Leave him alone!" Kathy's startled, shocked, and for the first time, no creepy smile, just a blank look. Then she goes downstairs, out the door, shuts it quietly. Dad gets called, obviously, they have a difficult talk later that night, but here's the climax. And it's terrifying. Middle of the night, the narrator wakes up, distinct feeling. Someone is in their room.
No.
That presence quickly leaves, shuts the door quietly behind them. Narrator gets out of bed, heart pounding, opens their door, just in time to see and hear their dad's bedroom door gently closing.
Oh my God.
They rush over, open their dad's door. Both Kathy and their dad are in bed. The narrator is furious, tells their dad, "Kathy was just in my room." But Kathy, blank stare again, just denies it completely.
Of course she does.
Dad's exasperated, tells the narrator, "Go back to your room." Then they hear him whispering with Kathy after the door closes. To this day, the narrator is just terrified, wants Kathy gone, convinced she's dangerous, and still wondering, why was she in their room? What was she doing?
Gosh, that story. It's just a masterclass in psychological dread, isn't it? It's not the monster jumping at us, the slow burn, the erosion of safety within the home by someone who's supposed to be, accepted. The real nugget of insight there, for me, is about that feeling of being gaslit. Your gut, your observations are screaming, danger, but the people who should believe you, your own family, are dismissing it.
Yeah.
That denial, that dismissal, can be almost as damaging as the threat itself. It isolates you, makes you question your own sanity.
That feeling must be awful, being sure something's wrong, but no one believes you, and it's inside your house.
It completely changes the dynamic. Your sanctuary becomes the source of anxiety. You're constantly on edge.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift again. Another unsettling account. This one plays with perception itself, where something totally familiar becomes profoundly weird and chilling.
Okay, perception. Interesting.
This person's home alone, upstairs, working on a history paper, totally focused. As far as they know, nobody else is home.
Right.
And then, clear as day, they hear their mom's voice call their name from downstairs.
Okay, familiar sound.
So naturally, they call back, "What?" Nothing. No answer. A little annoyed now, concentration broken, they reluctantly head downstairs to see what's up. Get downstairs, no mom in sight. So they call out, "Mom!" And this time, a voice yells their name back. But it's coming from the basement.
From the basement, okay.
This is where the strangeness really ramps up. The basement lights off. They call down the stairs again, "Mom!" She calls their name back. As they go to flick the light switch, head down the stairs. She calls their name again, just as they're nearing the bottom.
Okay.
And that's when it hits them. Something is profoundly wrong. Every single time Mom called their name, it sounded exactly the same. Zero difference in inflection, they said. Like a recording playing over and over.
Oh, that's creepy, the repetition.
Super creepy. So they get to the bottom of the stairs, scan the basement, no Mom, nowhere. But then, They notice this little crawl space closet door is open.
Oh.
Not a normal closet described as this strange, large closet you literally have to crawl into. That's the only place left she could possibly be.
Right.
So, one last time, heart probably pounding, they call out, "Mom!" Silence. Nothing. Just the, quiet buzzing sound from the bare bulb in the basement light fixture.
Just the hum.
Wow.
Their reaction. Instant panic. Freaked out is how they put it. They just turned and sprinted back up those stairs, slammed the basement door shut, locked it, didn't know what it was, but every instinct screamed danger.
Pure flight response. Understandable.
Absolutely. So the confirmation comes next, which is cements the terror. They grab the house phone, hands shaking, call their real mom's cell.
Okay.
Rings a few times. Mom picks up, and yeah, she's out grocery shopping.
Oh, wow. So she definitely wasn't home.
Definitely not. Took half an hour of frantic explaining to convince her they weren't joking. Later, when both parents are finally home, they all go down to the basement together. Cautiously.
I bet.
The crawl space closet door. Still open, but chillingly. Nobody inside. Just empty. And the narrator says, to this day, it's the most haunting, unexplainable experience they've ever had.
That story taps into something really primal, but also what psychologists might call perceptual dissonance. It's about how our brain expects familiar things, like a voice, to behave in familiar ways in the right context. Right, it should be attached to the person.
Exactly. And when you get this perfect replication of the sound, but it's totally dislocated from where it should be, and it repeats identically, it breaks your brain's processing. The insight there is realizing how much we rely on that consistency of our senses for safety, for reality itself.
Yeah.
When something fundamental like your mom's voice defies logic like that, it's not just scary, it shatters your sense of what's real, leaves you with that deep, lingering unease.
Like your own senses are betraying you or reality is glitching. That's terrifying.
Precisely. It's an internal violation, not just an external threat.
Okay, for our final story, we're leaving the house behind. We're heading out into the wilderness. Vast, empty, or maybe not so empty.
Oh, okay. Isolation.
This person's on a solo off-roading trip, Colorado, ending the day on this challenging trail called Dead Man's Road. The plan, just sleep in the back of their Jeep.
Adventurous. Done that myself.
Yeah, they mentioned feeling comfortable solo in the woods, something they enjoyed. Pulled off the main trail a bit, turned on their big LED light bar, lit up the whole area, felt pretty safe, called it luxury camping compared to a tent. Ate some snacks, set up the sleeping bag, ready to crash.
Setting the scene. Peaceful.
Until it wasn't. Okay, here's where the suspense kicks in. Jeep windows are all closed, keep the bugs out right, but you can still hear everything outside really clearly.
Yeah, sound travels in the quiet.
Suddenly, a voice from out in the woods, followed by this short, loud laugh.
Whoa. Okay, that's immediately wrong.
Immediately wrong. The narrator's first thought, nobody should be out here. This deep, total darkness. No other lights, nothing. They look out, scan the darkness beyond their light bar. Nothing. Then the voice comes again. Much clearer this time. Still couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but this uncontrollable shaking started. They just lay there, scared stiff, listening.
Heart must be pounding.
Totally. After a little while, just the crickets. Then, even closer, a clear voice. Sounded like maybe a woman or young boy. Hello, I see you there.
Oh, direct address. That changes everything.
Game changer. Pure paralyzing fear. The narrator said they were ready to throw up, just too scared to even move toward the driver's seat, just hoping irrationally that if they stayed perfectly still, maybe they wouldn't really be seen. Hiding was the only instinct left.
Primal fear kicking in, yeah.
Freeze response.
And then the climax.
Yeah.
A loud bang right on their rear windshield.
Jump scare.
Big time. That broke the paralysis. They jumped, practically dove over the front seats, fumbled for the keys, engine roared, and they just floored it, driving way too fast down this rocky, awful terrain, terrified whoever it was chasing them on foot.
Oh man, that drive must have been hell.
Nightmare. Scared to even look in the rearview mirror. When they finally risked a glance, just saw the red glow of their taillights on the empty trail behind them. No one there. Drove for miles and miles, didn't stop until they hit pavement and found a motel.
I don't blame him one bit. And the narrator is adamant this wasn't someone lost needing help. Why laugh? Why no flashlight in pitch black? Why just one bang on the window, if not purely to terrorize? It just remains this completely unexplainable event that totally shook them.
That story really drives home the vulnerability you feel in isolated places. You seek solitude, peace, and then bam! It flips into intense terror because of some unknown, seemingly menacing presence.
Yeah.
The core insight there is how our fear response just goes into overdrive when logic fails. When you're alone, facing something that makes no rational sense, it's somehow far more chilling than a monster you can name. It just fundamentally challenges that assumption that there's always a logical reason for things.
It's that ultimate exposure, isn't it? Realizing you're not alone, you're seen, and you have absolutely no idea why or by what.
Exactly. And that void, that absence of explanation, your mind tries to fill it, and often what it comes up with is far scarier than any reality could be.
So, these stories, they're all different, obviously, but they share that core thing, don't they? These moments where the everyday just twists into something frightening, or when things you just can't explain invade your personal space, your sense of safety. They really are powerful sources, these accounts, giving us raw data on how we react when things get truly unsettling.
Indeed. They're potent reminders, really, that real life can throw things at us that are just as, if not more, disturbing than anything in fiction. They often leave us hanging, right? More questions than answers. They challenge how we even understand reality sometimes. Proving true horror isn't always ghosts and goblins, but sometimes just inexplicable encounters.
So what's the takeaway for you listening to this? I think these stories really hammer home how important it is to trust your gut, that little voice inside that says, something's not right here. And to always pay attention to your surroundings, because honestly, you just never know when the ordinary might suddenly take a very unexpected, very terrifying turn. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into these unsettling corners of true experience. If these stories grabbed you, please do us a favor, like this episode, share it with someone who enjoys this kind of thing, and definitely subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. We'll have more deep dives into the strange and unexplained coming your way. Stay vigilant out there.